A very warm welcome back to the Grand Finals for 2015. Our World of Tanks World Championship is well underway now, and some of the groups are about to be decided. No more so than in our next game. Our first team absolutely have to win their game. Without it, they are on a long flight home to Asia. Please make some noise for RG.Razer. Their opponents are none other than the reigning world champions for World of Tanks. Please welcome the 2014 Grand Final winners, Navi! For RG.Razer, but another win will secure yet another quarterfinal for Navi. Let's find out what our analysis team thinks of the matchup.
Thank you very much, Paul. That was quite an entrance earlier today from Navi, the champions from last year, but can they hold on to that title? And the opposing team, RG.Razer, can they stay alive in this tournament? That's what we're going to find out right now in this matchup, gentlemen. And I'm looking forward to see how Navi has adjusted to 7x42. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about that. But let's go ahead and take a look at Navi.
Yes, we are fully ready to Grand Finals. We are training a lot, so we think that we in good form. For the Grand Finals, we know that we must to play with substitution.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We see Navi currently getting ready for their matchup against RG.Razer. RG.Razer earlier today fell to EL Gaming 0-5, and RG.Razer must win this match to stay alive in the tournament. This is quite the uphill battle, David versus Goliath. Navi has been a team that impressed us last year and continues to impress us throughout their multiple victories, their multiple championships throughout the season. But what is it, Mojo, about Navi that is so gosh darn good?
They are so calm in a burst of thickest of the fire that they win most matches like that. They don't have any more advanced tactics like they used to be. They're not leaders in tactics anymore. Other teams took that. But their aggression in moments when they decide the focus fire, the fluency of the movement of the team, how they work together, how they communicate, on any part of the map, they cover each other, always. That's the rare, and that's why they're the best at the moment.
Now, Ola, at this time, people can vote for which team they want to win, correct?
Almost. Maybe in a couple of minutes.
In a couple of minutes, they can start
Yes.
voting. I predict here it's going to be a landslide vote for Navi. They are one of the crowd favorites as well.
It's really hard to imagine even in wildest dream.
Even in America, people are going to vote for Navi.
But people win lottery.
Yeah, they do. They do. Anything can happen. Anything can happen here in World of Tanks, especially at the Grand Finals here in Warsaw, Poland. We have a packed house. This crowd's been fantastic, cheering for all the teams. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your support of World of Tanks and the Wargaming.net League. As we continue through our matches today, we have 3 more, and then tomorrow we will have the single elimination end, you could say, of the tournament, where teams will be going home on defeats. The winners will move on until we finally crown a champion. Navi, from 7x42, we would see so many teams follow the same patterns of defense, and waiting for the enemy to make a mistake. 7x54 changed that with the attack defense mode, and also some of these new lighter tanks that have been introduced have we seen a significant change in Na'Vi as a team? And in retrospect as well, the rest of the teams in EU and CIS in America because of the changes of 7x54?
A lot of the teams have gone more aggressive because they can't get away with playing that defensive like Na'Vi used to do. They need to make their own moves because if they play defensive, they get caught out by hard pushes with a lot of lights. Na'Vi is that kind of team though that still plays a bit more back, reactional. They wait for the opening move from the enemy and they react mostly perfect to it. They have one of the best crossfires ever. Like they will always cover the other guy and they move it step by step and step. But they still have that occasional, like in 742, that occasional aggression that nobody expects from them. And that's what's winning them rounds.
We do have our maps you see on the screen, Cliff, Steps, and Ruinberg. First time we're going to see Cliff as a first map choice. I find that intriguing.
Finally.
Finally. Maybe some T49s.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about that during one of the games we ever see a T49 at this stage because, Cliff, we see that tank the most. And it's just one of those tanks that it's really rewarding when a shot lands. When that shell penetrates another tank and it's almost a one-shot kill. But when it misses, you're like, great, well, I'm going to be out of the fight for the next 50 seconds, it feels like. Are we ever going to see that tank today?
I don't think we're going to see it from Na'Vi because Na'Vi wants a consistent. They're not sure if he's going to pen, if he's going to be able to hit the shot. They want somebody that can hit their shots consistently. So for them, it might be a too big risk. From RG.Razer, on the other hand, we might see it. And it would be really interesting to see if he can land the shots, especially against his T54s, because it's really hard. Even on close range, he needs to aim very carefully or shoot heat, which is a real gamble.
It's a gamble. And the type of play with a T49 is a run and gun. You got to get up, fire, and get the heck out of there because you're completely vulnerable.
And when you're on reload, your team's vulnerable to a push.
Yep.
If you miss your shot and they push in, you have an issue.
Yeah, they know that one tank's out of the fight, and so it becomes a 7-on-6. And that's a really tough call of bringing a T49 and some other of these tank choices that high risk, high reward, but the gamble and the penetration value and then switching to heat, a lot of variables that are out of players' control can get really difficult to make that kind of choice.
You need to place it in some player's hand that you really trust because he has to know what to do with it. And I don't think Na'Vi even plays it. Even when they faced really good team that uses 49, SE6, they actually always played around it, how to counter that guy. And that brought them the win in the finals of the Russian League. So they will definitely not use it. I don't think so.
Now, Cliff has gone through a number of changes as a map over the entire esports career, you could say, of World of Tanks. But because of those changes, we've seen more openings and more teams vying for the eastern side because of a more open road. Wasn't that way a number of seasons ago. Is Cliff as balanced and as viable of a map, no matter where you spawn? Are we starting to see some changes in win rates on either side?
Well, in the beginning there was a little bit of an attacker's advantage. People thought it was a defensive, but it was an attacker advantage because you can take the hill easier as an attacker. But now the defenders are playing more aggressive. They're doing more aggressive stuff, which blocks out the route onto the hill. So now it's more again into the defensive favor. I mean, it's still played a little bit like in 742. We have the middle engagements, but like you said, some teams like to go around the mountain, and we even see 1-2 line pushes.
I love seeing Eastern play, and I was a big advocate of using the East side. People are like, look, why? It doesn't make any sense. You're sending a tank out there that's not going to be in the fight. As soon as the enemy team finds out that tank's not there, they're going to push forward, and the one tank trying to trail behind is going to find an entire firefight alone because the rest of his teammates are dead. However, I've seen some teams effectively use the East side by hiding those tanks, having a small skirmish in the center, then taking 2 or 3 quick-moving tanks, getting behind, starting to land those shots, creates confusion, and then you have a pincer attack, at least over the American server. It's not used that often. It is a rarity, but it is an option, and that's one of the options that I like to see on Cliff that some of these teams can bring. 99% of the time, though, it comes down to what's happening in the center. And in that center engagement, it's a lot of times whoever gets those nice shots first.
But it's really like finesse. It looks like everything is going on, but it's all in little moves. Who is where? Who is doing what? Can you hide the move of some tanks? If you are doing rotation, it's really critical that they actually don't sense it. They think you're just stalling or whatever. Because if they sense it, they can always counterattack. It's a really close range map, and they can just finish off your team before you even do anything.
And you have to be really mindful of those counterattacks, especially on the other side of the hill. We call that the donut over in America, but that smaller hill that is on the west side, that some tanks will try to peek behind and have a long-range firefight compared to the lighthouse section, where some tanks love to get up on top. Some of those 1390s will get up there, the T49s historically. Cliff, some players say it's a little bit of a 50-50, but you're right, Mojo. It comes down to finesse. It comes down to knowing your tank, knowing your team, and knowing your tactics. That's map 1. Steps is going to be map 2. The play on Steps has been just pretty much one-sided we've seen so far. And Na'Vi, with the power they have on Cliff, Steps, that reset, that attack defense reset could be something that RG.Razer really needs.
Steps is the most played map on all regions, unlike Cliff, which is mainly played in Europe and then in Russia. So Steps will be more familiar to them. And they will definitely at least see Na'Vi coming. They will not be able to be surprised easily.
Yeah.
But always, finesse.
Finesse.
Even there.
Finesse.
Even there.
That's the word of the day from Mojo, is finesse, for sure. Well, as we're getting ready for our admins to confirm that the players are ready, I'd like to remind everybody to please send us your tweets, hashtag the Grand Finals. Ola's standing by to reward you guys some codes as well, and vote for your teams at thegrandfinals.com. I've seen a lot of T-54s today. Are you surprised by any of the other tank choices? Were you surprised? I know you were off the desk for a sec, but were you surprised to see some Artie play coming from Arclit? You know, it's Arclit. We know it's going to come from him.
Arclit is one of the few people that can get away with playing RT a lot because he's so consistent in it. He will land shots. It might not always look like he's doing it, but he has a big impact on the game. Even if he doesn't hit anything, the impact he has by making the enemy team do rotations is really big. Other tank choices, the VZs on Ruenberg were a surprise coming from the Chinese region. We don't see that often in
LTVs.
And LTVs,
yeah. That was a big surprise too. And the amount of times that we would see just so many light tanks in the lineup and not a whole lot of mixes. Not a heavy tank to hold down one area. I know Randall was talking about it a little bit earlier with Mitch. But I feel that some of these tank lineups from these teams is all or nothing in some of their strategy, where if they had a little bit more of a mix-up, if they had just a heavier tank or more firepower, a longer range, a more stoic tank, it would change. It would, maybe not necessarily a victory, but it would definitely change the behavior of the battlefield.
I mean, like we discussed, we talked about it, certain tactics that the teams are playing do allow for that heavy tanking. They're not going really aggressive with their light lineup, so why not put the heavy in there? Like you said, Steps is one of those maps where you can get away with a T32, Prokhorovka as well, if you're not going to play full out aggressive. If you're playing it step by step, you can have a T32. It's a good tank for those maps. He can take some damage, he can distract them. It's a good map to have. It's a good tank to have.
We're not going to see any Tog 2s though. No. You're so confused, like, are you serious? For fun, a number of matches ago, some of the American teams brought some Tog 2s.
They like KV5s as well, don't they?
Oh, they're slow. They're boats. Yeah, Randall likes to call them boats. But
I'd like to say something.
I don't think we'll see any more of those kind of surprises here today. These teams are definitely taking it seriously. But I like seeing something slightly different. T54 over the T69. I'll have to agree with Waffer on that one. But the changes that these teams will have to make compared to today to tomorrow from some of these tank lineups, I look forward to see the end results, the end stats for a lot of these teams.
I like to see something new that actually works.
Yes, me too.
So not some failed experiments that end up miserably. Everyone thought 49 cannot work on Steps. SE6 in the middle of the season proved everyone wrong. Really decisively and really interesting games. So there is a chance for new openings, but they are rare. And I think if there are some, everyone is saving them for the later rounds.
True. That's a very good point, because these teams that have made it into tomorrow still have a number of matches, and they may have a couple more cards up their sleeve. We're almost ready for the matchup of Na'Vi versus RG.Razer. We're going to go ahead and kick it on over to the commentators.
Thank you very much, Josh. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Expo 21 Centre. My name is Mitch Leslie. I'm here with Randall Holcomb for our next matchup, which is going to be an absolute cracker. The first time we get to see our reigning champions here on the main stage going up against decidedly the underdogs Reform, who have really struggled to find their feet here.
It's been a little rough for them, but they are going to be going against a team which is consistent. We know what to expect from Na'Vi. Na'Vi has a target on their back, though, and everyone has mountains of data on them. So I'm giving the early parts of this series, perhaps RG.Razer could take a battle off them, and I think that's where it can happen. If not in the early parts of this, I feel like Na'Vi's going to gain some momentum, and it's just going to be an absolute stomp.
We've talked about Na'Vi. We've seen them at many tournaments, and obviously, as you said, they are well documented. And the strategies, or at least as they were, at least in the CIS finals and that kind of thing, were visible to all of us. They had a huge season, of course. I think it was 13 wins, 2 losses. and they've been very, very strong. Very, very quick background, of course, on Reform Gaming, RG.Razer. Founded in 2013, they are aggressive. But we've seen aggressive teams, we've seen how that can sort of backfire on them. Actually, the Kabinka International Open, they were second in that one. And they also placed 5th in the China Mianyang Sci-Tech City Cup, the same one, of course, that Yato were at. Yato managed to go a little bit further than they did.
Yeah, and also don't forget that they're known for bringing some weird tank choices, odd lineups, things that are going to throw your opponent off because they're not prepared to deal with that particular tank in a certain position or in a certain kind of a mix, a group. That could be where we see them pick up some wins for those reasons, because Na'Vi is a team that performs very well, especially against things that they are more familiar with. If you throw something which to them seems crazy or way too out there, an outlier kind of a strategy, that's something that we're going to have to really see in the battle to judge whether or not they're able to handle it and whether or not they've studied this opponent and that they know what to expect. Otherwise, RG.Razer could catch some momentum.
Of course, some changes to Na'Vi coming into this tournament. Rhino isn't attending. Actually, Angel Killer will be filling his place. And now Angel Killer, I think it was from Arcade in the CIS League. Someone can correct me on that, of course. So he knows Anatolich. Anatolich, back from the Unity days, of course, the now captain of Na'Vi. So, you know, Angel Killer is aware of these guys. He's quite a similar player, or at least his stats are similar to Rhino's here. So while Na'Vi, as you said there in the video, they did mention that they are coming to this event with a substitute player, we expect their incredible cohesion, experience and skill to sort of supersede the fact. But what is going to be interesting is if they put Angel Killer onto a T6 as a newer player, maybe less used to the team, it's possible that they're going to pull Lev Shah off of the T6 and onto a T8. And now he honestly has had in recent times some questionable performances in his T6s, especially at the CIS finals. And now they're putting him in even a more high impact tank.
Yeah, that's a point to worry about, but this is Na'Vi. This is a team where they're going to put in the time to make sure he is prepared for that role. Why else would they do that? It doesn't make sense to me to go and throw a player who is absolutely excellent in his position, switch it up because you have some kind of a substitute, and not come to this event prepared. I expect that they're going to be ready for it. They've done the work, and they know how to alter their strategies to account for any weaknesses, however slight they may be, because of that switch up and because they have to put players in positions they may not be incredibly experienced with. But these guys have been playing together so long that they should be able to make those changes, those adjustments on the fly and work with it.
Now, while Na'Vi have gone up against EL Gaming in recent times at other events, they don't have too much first-hand experience with RG. So going to be, you know, for them, as you said, a matter of feeling them out. Maybe those early wins might come in for RG when they can maybe sneak through some unexpected tactics. Player to watch, absolutely power slide. You saw him in the interview. This guy was absolutely Na'Vi's most important player this season. He made all the plays. And he did a lot of work. He's actually had his damage score compared to the rest of his team was 20% higher than anybody else. But what we noticed is when Na'Vi were using Power Slide as a first-line player, so a spearhead player, he faltered a little bit sometimes.
It's normal in that situation. You put someone in the front line, expect them to lead the fight, they're going to go down a little bit faster. You're going to see their stats suffer because of it. And generally those players that you see on the front line aren't going to have the highest damage all the time. They're going to have a lot of bounce shots maybe. They're going to have a few other little statistics like spotted, high spotted, low damage, and you're going to see them playing in tanks that aren't necessarily scouts all the time. So it's just normal in that situation. You're going to see his stats suffer, but look at the results on the battlefield to really judge how well he's playing.
Okay, the first map is going to be Cliff. Na'Vi on the defensive side. Does this favour them? Does this work in their favour? We know that Na'Vi not always need to be super aggressive, but Cliff is an interesting map, not one we've seen heaps of today, and not one that featured very heavily in Na'Vi's finals in the RUCIS region.
You're right about that. This is something that can be a little curious. I'd expect that they'd go with a very normal one, opening up with the just straight to mid, everyone in that direction, maybe send the T6 off to a flank, or if you run with two T7s, one of those off to the west side, one to the east, and kind of feel your opponent out. It makes sense that Na'Vi's going to slow it down a little until they understand things. They could do a 1-2 split, but, you know, feel free to disagree, but I don't think it's time for that. Right in the first battle, it just doesn't seem like Na'Vi, these consistent teams, would go for something that could risk starting things off to a bad step, to a bad start?
Well, it remains to be seen. Na'Vi know their setups. They have distinct setups. They will often, maybe not on cliff, but oftentimes you'll see the Anatolich, as captain, put in a T32, a pivot point for his team, and they work the setup around him. It doesn't always work out. They actually struggled. Hellraisers, funnily enough, is always not been their, they don't lose to Hellraisers, but Hellraisers have definitely given them the most trouble. They've sort of been their kryptonite in a lot of ways. In the CIS finals, it was a 5-4 scoreline. And just a side note, ladies and gentlemen, as well, a result from our side stream game. Hellraisers 5-4 over Arete. So Arete bowing out now. But here we go, into Cliff, of course, Randall, the setup, as we well know, and Na'Vi defending first.
All right, we're going to see teams going up the 1-2 from time to time, but generally we're going to see all of the attention focused right around the lighthouse.
And it was said on the analyst desk as well, in the past, the attacking team had an easier access route to get up on towards the lighthouse, or at least the hill. But what we have seen, and we saw this at EU finals as well, was that defending teams would shove themselves onto the hill. They would get there first. They would use something like a 2-5-1 or something that could, fire down relatively well and really hold them off. So we are into our first game, ladies and gentlemen. Na'Vi going up against RG from China. Let's see what they've got for us.
All right, looking at the lineups, we do see the standard Bulldogs from Na'Vi, but the WZ-131s from RG, that's something that I'm not all that confident in. We're seeing both teams, of course, going right towards the middle. This is the safer strategy to start out with. You get a chance to keep everyone together. There's no huge risk. You're going to meet right at the tip, and we're going to see a little bit of a fight, but the overmatch is in favor of Na'Vi to start this one off.
It's going to be carnage again, but the rest of RG catches up. Levshay is not in position to really assist in this fight, and the shots are coming out straight, going to go low as well. Zhao Yu probably going the lowest in that first engagement, hitting his first blood. Care of Inspire's gun there. Black trying to come around and maybe get a little bit of a flank on the Anatolich, and he does drop it still. Aim to kill a response onto him, and we've seen this before. Again, it was Schoolbus and Yato, Na'Vi and RG.Razer, the same thing. They might have the initial overmatch, but over time, Na'Vi grinding out a distinct advantage.
Just all of the positioning right in the opening move from Na'Vi was set up to the point where, yes, for about 2 seconds, maybe you had more guns from RG.Razer on a few takes from Na'Vi, but Na'Vi is able to just execute perfectly.
Na'Vi, you're not interested in your crazy tactics. You can push into them as much as they like, and they're used to this. They are used to strange and aggressive tactics playing in the CIS region, and a team who will do it to them a lot. We play Santa Claus and 6 Deers. They are used to this kind of approach, and you can't sneak that stuff past them. They're too canny, they're too experienced, and too solid as a unit.
Yeah, I just don't think that even the lineup that we were seeing from RG was going to find much success. I think you should bring M41s. You're going to be able to keep damage going and going and going. You can move from one target to the other, transition in the middle of the fight, and keep the focus going. WZs, I do enjoy playing the tank, but I don't think it's necessarily the best thing here in this environment.
So the plan for RG, obviously on the attacking side, it looked like they just wanted to go straight over the hill. Can you decipher these hieroglyphics perhaps? Can you maybe make out a central fundamental strategy there that RG were trying to implement?
Well, we were seeing the same thing earlier. Go right into your opponent, don't let them get comfortable, don't let them figure you out, and try and win out in the brawl. Expect that your players are going to be able to brawl better than theirs, and the fact that you intend to start the fight means your opponent's going to be reacting until they can start to get some kind of control. Now, Na'Vi was expecting this. They were both intending to meet in the middle and find some kind of a firefight. So it just stands to reason that, well, because they were both expecting it, Na'Vi has so much more experience. We really do put them on a pedestal. They are our champions right now. They should come out ahead.
As far as the stats have indicated as well to us, we'll lean on that for a little bit, lacking any other evidence. Pound for pound, Na'Vi are a stronger team than RG.Razer. Stacked up against each other, whether you look at damage values or what have you, they are the stronger team. So, RG, I feel like, are trying to rely on a strategy of A, yes, catching them off guard, but B, hitting the shots onto the right targets at the right time in the right place, under the right circumstances, and they're not really doing much groundwork to put themselves in the right circumstances.
Yeah, they're not spending any time working their opponent. They're not trying to force Na'Vi to react to something and make them react in a way that will kind of put them in a place where you can work with that. Force them to go west when they should have gone east, and you just bring a flank around, for example. Something like that. You force them to make decisions, and you wait for them to be in that one transition where you can catch one player off guard, two players off guard, get a little bit of free damage.
Catch them mid-rotate, perhaps.
Exactly, right then and then there. And if you can do that, then you might be able to get that little bit of a lead. All you need is maybe 1,000 hit points. You can follow that up, but you can't get overconfident, of course, after grabbing that. You have to respect the fact that this is Na'Vi at every single moment. You can't let up. You have to keep the pressure, keep them moving, keep them deciding, and keep every single member on this team making decisions that aren't necessarily the easiest to answer.
Well, right now, Na'Vi are looking sharper than Strake's Quiff. Let's see if they can continue to carry this one out, of course. Look, yes, I know RG maybe want to try and catch Na'Vi mid-rotate. It's Cliff. You push to your side of the hill, and then you set up. You're moving as a unit initially. Will we see something different here from RG?
Right off the bat, it looks like Na'Vi is going to be going same spot, and RG, no big changes here. Right to the middle, we're going to see that fight again. But did RG learn their lesson from last time? Are they going to take a higher ground? Are they going to try and create those crossfires? Are they going to try and pull guns from Na'Vi into various different positions so they cannot focus as effectively as RG.Razer? It's difficult, but LaShaw going up on the high ground means they're going to have that lead, that kind of an advantage in position. And as Inspirer even gets into the high ground, I'm loving this from Na'Vi. They're getting the damage into black. It should be a matter of time unless Antilich is going to take a little bit more and go down.
Oh, Black caught in a definitely not an ideal position there. Xiaoyu and Ref up on the hill. They want to push in. They're not going to give Na'Vi any room. But is this going to work out? Look at how much damage is going towards him right now. And Ref is now going to be the next into the grinder. Na'Vi inviting RG to come forward and test their mettle. And so far, Na'Vi coming out on top quite strong.
The timing is just not quite there for RG.Razer. They could have gone over all at once and maybe done something there, but members all below the hill were holding back. You had Angel Killer there just pressuring that, and no one wanted to peek out and risk going down instantly. But you throw Ref and you throw Xiao Yu over the top without enough support, and they're going to be given away for free.
He literally threw his tank into the air, trying to use his weight to actually add extra damage. That is a good indicator of how reckless is what it looks like. That is ostensibly the approach that we're seeing from RG. And now, damage still being traded, but RG severely wounded from, let's say, a gross overcommitment in the first part of this round.
Yeah, this maybe speaks to members of the team not being on the same page or maybe executing out of line with what may have been intended. You have those strategies planned, but now we've got to clean up. I mean, Na'Vi has decided we've got enough of an advantage. Let's take this one home.
RG just trying to decide who to shoot. It doesn't matter because he's completely surrounded here, trying to move away. And Lao Wang right at the back as well will get gunned down. M1 and RG, the last two standing, and it's going to be an utter bloodbath. And Na'Vi are the orchestrators of this scene.
And just one more, and that's going to do it. Na'Vi is just going to play this so much stronger right in the middle, meeting their opponent with a similar strategy and staying calm, cool, and collected the entire time.
Strake just looking to his friends going, oh, I don't know what's going on here. It's almost the same situation we saw from Applewell actually on School Bus. It's looks of bemusement on the faces of these teams who, I mean, sure, they would have done a little bit of homework there, but they're caught off guard, yes, but they always seem to bounce back. They always seem like they are holding something in reserve. And these reckless attacks that we're seeing from some of our teams from Chinese or the Asia-Pacific region, they're not stacking up right now against Europe CIS.
Yeah, I just don't think they have as much practice and experience in a brawl together as the players of Na'Vi. Na'Vi is a team that's been around for an incredibly long amount of time in this league. They have that experience together. Yes, they have a few roster changes, but those people seem to be fitting in very, very well. They're not making any real mistakes. I'm not seeing anyone too out of place. There's maybe a little bit of back and forth here, but it's the fact that we're in such a brawl situation where everything is moving so quickly, and the entire battlefield will change in a matter of a few seconds, that you'll see one or two players of Na'Vi take some damage here, but they are definitely returning it twofold.
So that's the two attacking sides done for RG.Razer. This time Na'Vi now get to choose to attack. Now the question is, this is probably what a few of us are wondering here, will we see this characteristic Chinese approach of being aggressive as a defender, pushing into the enemy team? Na'Vi, they you know what? They're more than happy to play 4 defense halves on Cliff. I'm sure that is, because they undoubtedly will be looking for a more solid, well-orchestrated setup. I doubt we'll see anything overly reckless from them here. And I want to see how a team like RG is going to be able to respond to that. Or if they won't even care and won't give themselves time to respond and just push in.
Yeah, it stands to reason to me that they're just going to do the same thing. I mean, we saw it for 2 in a row. Not a whole lot of variation in these, just a little bit, all in the same area. I don't even think Na'Vi is going to head down the 1-2 line at all. They don't need to. They need to stay together. If they split up and RG decides, let's push right down the middle again, guess what's going to happen? You're going to see a few members of Na'Vi go down, and that's going to be a loss that they didn't need to do. They can stay in the center. If you see a west side push of even 1 or 2 tanks from RG, you can react to that. You can shift positions. Na'Vi can prepare for that and be safe to that little bit of pressure, or even send someone to respond. So should be status quo from Na'Vi. Do the same thing again. Execute. Don't make any mistakes. Don't get overconfident. You've got 2 wins under your belt, yes, but this is still an opponent who's going to take brawls to you, and you cannot let up. You can't lose focus.
On that note, every now and then, every so often at least, we have seen Na'Vi succumb to a degree of bloodlust in their games. What I mean is that a team pushes onto them, and they decide just to do the same back. It's annoying, right? You've got a team that's always pressuring you, poking you, coming at you. Some of the younger players especially, a great example, of course, is the CIS games against We Play Santa Claus and 6 they were always aggressive. And there were a couple times that Na'Vi dropped a couple of games, not many, not enough to lose the game, but where they succumbed to that temptation to try and go straight for the enemy as well.
I mean, it's such a universal thing in gaming. You go into one game, you win, you are the top scoring player in that battle, you walk out with mountains of damage, you get a ton of medals, and you go into the next game and you forget that this isn't what you just came from. This is a whole new battle, a whole new situation. You have to reapproach everything. You cannot just start thinking, oh, I'm going to bounce every shell. I'm going to make every shot. I have to treat this the same way, the same seriousness, same respect as every single time.
Na'Vi, cool, calm, and collected up against the super aggressive RG.Razer. Let's jump into our third map now and see if what changes have been made.
Big changes. RG's going to go with 3 5100s, 2 IS3s, and 2 WZ 131s.
Is this 742?
I'm beginning to feel like it could be, but something about this is just weird. Going west entirely, WZs to lead the way makes a lot of sense. You're going to have IS3s, 5100s kind of scattered about because of their spawn, but they're not wasting a single moment trying to get that other side of the map. You can see Kirill is heading west. I think Na'Vi knows what's up. They can tell that something tricky is up. This could be a situation that could catch them off guard, but the spread of Na'Vi right now.
See what Kirill sees. 1 tank spotted already, so that information being relayed back to Na'Vi now. The 5100 also spotted, so Kirill now understanding that a decent size, at least like a good amount, at least of RG's force has been committed to this western flank. What will they make of this?
They're going to have to just completely restructure the way they're laying out on this map. But M41 Walker Bulldog is on the cap. You can see that. They can just sit here, wait, and force RG.Razer to run the gauntlet in order to stop cap.
So now Na'Vi have the chance to, as attackers, put a set defense together, work on the cap site hold, and now RG have to be the attacking team again. This doesn't work for them. It hasn't worked for them in the past. M1 snaking, slowly slithering his way across them. He's an IS3. That's not a slow take as far as heavies go, but it's not fast enough for a maneuver like this. Anatolij catches him on the rotate through. Xiaoyu and Black trying to come through as well. Xiaolian is a little bit faster than that 5100, but this is not a super maneuverable lineup here for RG at all.
They don't have the speed. They don't have the time. They've got less than 10 seconds left, just a few more, and that's actually going to be the cap. No one's even close to this.
Well. There's another one for Na'Vi. Moving in on towards that cap site. They were committed to that. Well, they didn't have to be committed to that push because they gained enough information from Kirill going wide. Kirill saw the majority of that RG force, and the rest.
Yeah, they figured out something was up. Something was curious. And it makes sense to head out to the west, see what's up, and it's a strong position to send a T-54 lightweight. But sending 5100s all the way to the south it doesn't really line up for me. The 5100 is maneuverable, decently fast, but you don't put it on the low ground. You need to take control of the high ground on Cliff, and there wasn't a single tank from RG up there. This was an all-in strategy. I think, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, they might have been expecting Na'Vi to head west at least with 1 or 2 tanks, and then overmatch those 2, wipe them out, take that overmatch and roll with it. But that's such a thin probability, especially with the way you've treated your opponent already. You've already gone twice right into them. Why would they ever split? It doesn't make any sense.
More to the point, you're defending, first of all. Oh, no, so you're attacking, should I say, but no. Yeah, they're defending. So why would you roll the dice with a team like Na'Vi? If you're defending, you've got to be in a position to receive a push. You need some sort of set play. We are not seeing these teams split their forces at all. There is no orchestration. There's no setup by the looks of things. It's just all their team is going in one direction.
And they're picking the low ground in this situation, which all it is We're trying to catch you off guard. We're trying to find something that will work because we know that you are absolutely the champions right now. You cannot... Approaching trying to beat Na'Vi is a difficult situation. You need to study them intensely. You need to understand every single player's little quirks, little play styles, what they're strong at, what they're weak at, where they're going to be, and how to deal with that situation. But when you realize that, wow, they are so good, you have to find something a little crazy, because when you go up against an opponent that you know or you believe to be a little bit superior to you, or by whatever margin, one of the ways you need to try and catch them off guard is by playing with their head, getting them into a place that's not even, not serene or cool, calm. You need to get them in that bloodlust you were talking about.
And I'm an advocate of the approach, playing it against a team like Na'Vi or anyone, to never offer your opponent too much respect, all right? If you respect them too much, you're gonna freeze up, okay? But then there is another end of the spectrum here, is not respecting them enough. It's not respecting what they can do to you head to head. RG trying to pick the head-to-head fights, trying to go 7-on-7 with these guys, and Na'Vi always seem to be able to repel them here. I mean, it's 3-0 right now. Reform, RG.Razer have a chance to defend here. They have a chance to set themselves up, get themselves in decent positions to receive Na'Vi's push, but from what we've seen in the past, it might just be another push straight forward.
I mean, it's the same lineup they used in the first two. Bring the T-54 lightweights, bring the WZs, and take it straight to them. Na'Vi knows that their opponent is very likely to do this, and they need to stay together. They're going to continue doing that. I like taking the high ground. You can see how that's going to work out a little bit later, but RG.Razer, if they can get close enough to the mountain, could overmatch on the low end.
There's a bounce there as well from M1. It's not a whole lot of damage being traded down. Torch going a little bit low on towards the hill, and power slide as well. M1 going to push straight onto him. A lot of damage being traded back and forth, but Na'Vi, yet again, look like they're leading, but only just.
Only just. You got 5,000 versus 4,800. This is very close in any single moment. I need slide to go down. There we go. RG.Razer has a chance in this, although they are 2 tanks down for 1 so far.
This is a god-awful mess. Xiao Yu now being forced away. Ancient Killer at the 4, trying to take him down now. Xiao Yan is going to be the next target, and it's just overmatch after overmatch every single time. It seems like Na'Vi have more tanks in the right place to deal with RG. They go in 7-on-7, but Na'Vi slicing them up into manageable portions and having them for dinner.
You can see how they just don't hesitate when they make a decision. They don't wait a single second when they realize they are starting to overmatch on our low end. We need to respond. We need to go forward, regroup, and then readdress the situation.
4-0 to the reigning champions. Many of us here maybe not surprised by this particular result. Were there not points here, though? Were there not opportunities for RG to give themselves more of a chance in some of these rounds?
I think they have to practice brawling more. It's such a repetitive drill to run, where you just find another team that you know is good in a brawl and saying, let's go at each other for hours. We're just going to brawl in the middle of whatever map you want for hours and hours and hours, and you have to just get faster and faster and faster at making the calls, and every player needs to know exactly what it means when you're in certain situations, when you have a flank on the low ground, or when someone's hugging a mountain right under the cliff like we just saw, what exactly to do. You can see that every member of Na'Vi knows exactly what to do. They don't hesitate, they don't mess it up. You didn't see anyone running into each other. You didn't see anyone
look at
crossing shots. You didn't see a focus even get missed too hard. You saw shots taken where they were supposed to be, exactly as they should.
Not for one moment are these guys looking rattled at all. I mean, to be fair, Reform Gaming, RG.Razer, have thrown the hammer, the tongs, and the kitchen sink all at them and still have not made a dent. I guess. Thank you, Strake. I like the hair, actually. It's not bad. Look, confidence, especially on this man as well, all over his face. You listen to the interview, you speak to them normally, they say, we're not going to come in here and say, we're definitely going to win. But we back ourselves all the way. Cool, calm, and collected. That is what they were saying on the analysis test. Jordy brought up a very good point. Na'Vi can adapt. They can respond to things that happen on the fly, because their first reaction is not to freak out and spray shots. Their first reaction is to confer amongst themselves while keeping themselves in the game. They're great at doing this sort of thing on the fly. Having the Anatolich now in a T-54 lightweight, we conjectured that it might cause a bit of tension, make it a little bit harder for the clear calls to come out. But it doesn't seem like it's been an issue thus far.
No, I don't see any indication that switching to a T8 has done anything to take away from his abilities here on the battlefield. But we're in a situation where it's very brief and it is a brawl. So something that they're very used to, and they don't necessarily need the constant calls. They know that they need to go forward, they need to regroup, some very basic steps that everyone should know at this level. that kind of a thing. So necessarily making those intricate calls or considering the minutes down the line, you aren't putting that pressure on him right now. He hasn't run into that situation because it's been so fast. So we don't quite have that depth yet.
So a throwback to something that you mentioned towards the start of the game, when we talk about if teams are going to go head-to-head, your fundamentals need to be excellent. Because at the end of the day, you are pitting your team's ability to shoot their team against vice versa.
Yeah.
Fundamentals have to be good. Your shots need to be good, the way you place them, the way you aim, and who you're shooting at as well needs to be communicated well. It looks like RG are losing out on fundamentals here. Maybe they need to find something else. Maybe steps will be the place for their come-up-ance here. It's a 4-0 lead to Na'Vi right now. Let's see if RG.Razer can hold on, Rukul.
All right, it's going to be a very difficult situation. The Northwest cap, very difficult to attack. The Southeast, almost impossible against a team like Na'Vi. This is going to be... I don't even know how they're going to approach this.
Situations in which we've seen Na'Vi have difficulty on this map has more so been on the defensive side, to be fair. They drop themselves into the valley, and teams like Hellraisers or WePlay, SC6, will actually catch them as they try and poke up and get resets here. Resets, should I say.
Yeah, but you've got Angel Killer in the T6. He's going to be pressuring the cap a little bit. You've got all these T54s, which are going to play the terrain, hull down, and just give it a little bit of time. Now, the T32 on the side of RG.Razer, that could prove some difficulties, but if Na'Vi can get in close, we've seen how they brawl. They are outplaying RG right now. If they can get close, I expect them to be able to take this. And you can see them going up for the tracks right now.
Angel Killer actually in the T37 here. So interestingly enough, that more scouting or like that sitting back role now being sort of offered to him. So let's see how that's going to come into play here. It's fairly standard train line push here. Xiaoyu maybe a little bit overextended here. Normally teams will push that with 2 or 3 tanks once they have information.
But only one shell connected on that, although there's no support from RG.Razer, and he's going to go down in just a moment. Minimal damage being dealt to Kiroloid.
No follow-up. There's no follow-up, no overwatch here. So RG can't create this virtual overmatch situation over long distances if they don't have the guns trained on their fellows. They're not covering him, and they lost him essentially for nothing.
Now, they do have a gun off the battlefield, but they still have a lot of hit points to back this up. They are at 7k, now just dropping below, but they're even with Na'Vi in that respect. If the T32 can play his role perfectly, if he doesn't make mistakes and start taking damage, if he keeps the pressure on Na'Vi's tanks, does not let them move further east, this could be brought back under control, and RG.Razer could start playing this one out, and we could see where switching to a tier 8 is going to start affecting Na'Vi's synergy.
Lao Wang trying to use nigh on 200 millimeters of frontal armor on that turret to get his head over the hill. So far, not really yielding too many results. That being said, most of Na'Vi are spotted. Inspire a little bit low. Lev Shah takes a shot there as well. You can see he's pushed up a little bit further, and he may look to try and create a flanking scenario if RG are looking to push on here. But again, this is quite quiet. Wow, you pen a T32. If you can get him in the captain's hatch, you will penetrate.
It's such a thin shot, though. He was at a higher elevation. Absolutely everything was in his favor. Great shot. You have to give it to his focus.
Right now, Na'Vi looking like they want to spread down the rest of the map. Strake and Power Slide holding hands on those 54 lightweights here. They might try and set up here for a bit of a crossfire scenario, and it almost like clockwork, RG are advancing
right into their opponent. Now, you do have a 3v4 situation, but look at the hit points in each of these tanks. Good focus fire from Na'Vi will be able to slow this down and start clogging up this low ground with wrecked tanks.
Quick relocation there from the middle. Na'Vi pulling back there. Kiroloid picks up Black now. Ref going to get tracked up. He is absolutely immobilized there. No way of him to get out there. The trading, though, isn't too bad. Now, Inspire going quite low. Kiroloid up on the mountain, trying to help out, but RG have run out of tanks. They have run out of health points, and they have run out of luck here. Na'Vi are going to clean it up 5-0.
Absolutely perfect. They walked right into the funnel. Na'Vi was set up for it. They predicted it. They saw it coming. They knew their opponent, and it's as if they had studied them for months before this. They knew exactly what was coming.
It's almost as if like there's a plan A. There's always a plan A with a team like RG. There is no plan B. There is only plan A, and the alternative is utter destruction.
They didn't even have time to work on that. Na'Vi didn't give them a chance to retreat, re-engage, do any of that. They kept the pressure on when it was brought to them. They didn't let up. They didn't retreat. They brought whatever aggression that was to them right back at them. They met it and said, we can execute this better than you can.
And it's always tricky. You know, defensive steps is hard to play. A lot of teams say, yeah, we need to get the heck out of Dodge. We need to head into the valley. There's some safety there, and then we have the ability to sort of contest the cap from there. But they are literally, a lot of teams do this, giving over control of the map to Na'Vi. Na'Vi can set up. We saw Strake, I think, a power slide go straight down the mid. They came back. They can do what they like. All the freedom for our reigning champions there to deal with damage.
I love the timing, by the way, of what you were just talking about. When we saw the two T-54 lightweights head south, they got into a nice high ground, were able to spot the attack from RG and then respond appropriately. And then, even on top of that, they were already in place. They knew what was going to happen a minute before we even saw it happen.
Na'Vi, what a strong performance from them. Strength looking completely unruffled after that game. And that is a strong showing from them. 5-0, 5-0 in their group. So we know that they will be advancing, and they're definitely making some waves here on the main stage. And definitely got to point out as well, Angel Killer did a great job in that T-37. You could see we did conjecture how he might be used. He was used on a T7 on one occasion and then the T6, but still doing some decent work. I mean, Na'Vi, it just looked like it was straight out of their default playbook. They're really not giving too much over to the enemy team at all.
Yeah, it was just absolutely right on par. Our predictions were that we were going to see that T6, that T8 switch, and it did come together. I mean, they put in the hard work to make sure any changes to their team wouldn't affect them. Now, we haven't seen quite enough battles yet for me to say it's absolutely perfect and absolutely, clean. There is still a chance that there's some weaknesses here and there that might come up, especially as the day goes on, and especially as these guys get more and more fatigued from playing numerous matches.
Definitely a narrative starting to develop here. Some very characteristic play coming out of our APAC and Chinese regions. I mean, we'd love the intensity, the energy, and the aggression, but against a team like Na'Vi, you really aren't hedging your bets very well. We're going to pass down to the stage. It's Power Slide with Paul Challoner for the post-match interview.
Thank you very much. Yes, Power Slide, well done. A very straightforward victory. That's 2 today that have been very easy for you. Talk to me about the fact that you're now through to the quarterfinals, nice and safe, but as the defending champions, just how much of a heavy weight is that for you?
It was a hard match for us because it's a China team, so we can't train with this team. We are training with European teams and Russian teams, so we don't know what they will be do.
Okay. The analysis team asked earlier, what difference has it made for you switching from the old way of playing World of Tanks to the new 754 way? So explain that to me. How difficult has that transition been for you?
How difficult what?
In the terms of you're now playing a totally different type of game in World of Tanks, a different set of rules.
It's a hard question.
I mean, has it been easy for you guys, do you think?
Yes, I think yes.
So that's bad news for everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so quarterfinals already done. You're in the quarterfinals tomorrow. We'll see you back here as the defending champions. Is there only one goal for you this weekend, and that's to become champions again?
Yes, we are going to Warsaw to win this tournament. But quarterfinal match is hard. Will be hard for us because it's Virtus Pro or Santa Claus 6 will be our opponents tomorrow.
So tough match either way. Who would you prefer?
What?
Who would you like to play?
Yeah.
Which of the two teams would you prefer to play?
With Virtus Pro, I think.
Easier?
What?
Are they easier?
No. More interesting.
Okay, more interesting. Congratulations, Power Slide. Na'Vi, the winners here, and straight through to the quarterfinals for the defending champions. Let's find out what Joshua Gray and the guys over at the analysis desk thought of that performance.
Thank you, Paul. Well, 5-0. That's what we thought about it. Na'Vi still looking fantastic. And thanks, Paul, for asking that question of Power Slide. It looks like they're not having too tough of a transition at all into 7x54. They're owning the space. With these Chinese teams, yes. But how are they going to compare against Virtus Pro and other teams that they have a history with? That's going to be the true question that we're going to find out a little later today and definitely tomorrow, for sure.
I mean, they looked pretty good on Cliff. Their reactions were on point, their focus fire was on point, their positioning was better than RG.Razer's in every aspect. For them, it was an easy match. They were just better prepared. But they did show some class by taking it serious. I mean, I predicted it would be 5-0, but they took it really serious. Like, they were already pretty much through, but they came with the right mentality, and I think they did really well. They looked really good.
Yeah, and this is a wonderful opportunity for RG.Razer to have this type of experience, to go up against the champion from last year, and to know exactly what it's like, what kind of tactics they're using, what works and what doesn't work, and to take that back home and to prepare for the next season. And I look forward to seeing RG.Razer return next season as well. So we saw that from some teams, especially the American teams last year. Simp really took a lot home with them and prepared and refined themselves and became an incredible team. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it this time because Elevate was able to best them, and Roulette has joined them here in North America. And I need to find out exactly how they're doing in this tournament and see if they're still alive in Group A.
They're playing with School Bus now, I think.
Right now, okay. There was another matchup that you were very excited about that happened on our community